Traders, welcome to day 19 of the Master Your Trading Mindset movement. For a lot of you guys and girls out there, this is probably going to be the most important lecture in this whole series. We're talking all about the invisible psychological block that stops individuals from accumulating, first and foremost getting, and then accumulating and growing wealth or money. And there's a very important dynamic that you must understand about your psychology and what actually happens in your head to ensure that you can feel worthy of achieving the goals you've set, and more specifically on being receptive to making and growing wealth and money. Now, this is a particular challenge that I went through early on in my journey and had a huge impact on my life. So I'm incredibly inspired to share what we're going to talk about in this particular lecture. Now, before we get into it, just a quick recap. The Master Your Trading Mindset movement is all about ensuring that each and every single one of you guys and girls gets the cutting edge education, tools, insights, accountability to make sure you're focusing on your psychology in your trading. Everybody says that trading is 90% psychology or mindset, yet very few traders invest the time, energy, or effort into empowering their mindset. So these 30 days, I wanted to give you greater levels of education, tools, insights, and accountability to focus on your psychology heading into 2023. If you do, you're going to be in a great position to have the most successful year in 2023. If you resonate with these lectures, please share them with your friends, share them in your trading community, share them on your social media. Let's get this movement out there. Let's get traders focusing on the right thing to focus on heading into 2023. Now, without further ado, let's get into this particular masterclass, which is all about the invisible block of growing wealth. Now, the big problem we're addressing here is shame and guilt. What happens in the psychology, as we're going to talk about in a second, is individuals throughout their life, from early life till now, have moments of perception where they perceive to have let either themselves or other individuals down. They perceive to have caused more pain than pleasure to other individuals, more challenge than support, more negative than positive. And what happens in the subconscious mind is these moments log as very specific moments of shame and guilt. And the accumulation of shame and guilt that's unaddressed in the subconscious mind leads to a feeling of unworthiness and leads to a feeling of wanting to give away whatever comes into your pocket, which we're going to explain more. But the problem we're addressing here is this accumulation of shame and guilt. It's this accumulation of shame and guilt that leads to a lot of traders not being able to break through to consistency and achieve funding and achieve payouts that they would love to have. It's this accumulation of shame and guilt that leads to this feeling of unworthiness, of feeling like they're not even worthy to be funded or to scale their accounts or to make significant amounts of money through their trading or through business or in life, whatever it is, right? It's this feeling of unworthiness that leads individuals to feeling like they're not worthy of certain relationships or certain goals or certain physiques or health, right? Every area of life this can be affecting. So going in and addressing the shame and guilt in your life, especially the significant ones, will free you up to feel worthy of achieving your trading goals, scaling your funding, feeling worthy of payouts and achieving great wealth through your trading and every other area of life as well. So what we're addressing here is not only going to help your trading significantly, but it's also going to have a big impact on your general life as well. So these moments of shame and guilt will be logged in the unconscious, the subconscious mind, and lead to feelings of unworthiness. You will consciously or unconsciously push money away from you whenever you get money towards you, whenever you start to build a good track record, whenever you start to do really well. You're going to have this feeling of unworthiness, and consciously or unconsciously, you're going to find ways to self-sabotage it, push it away. And it's all a strategy trying to help you uncover the shame and guilt in your life. So this is a lot of the times a big root reason why traders don't ever make it. So we're going to go back and I'm going to show you how to address this, and I'm going to show you what's happening in the psychology to ensure that you have an understanding of this and you have some tools to be able to address shame and guilt in your life. And to be fair, it's not all that difficult to address. You just need to find the root moments and you need to hold yourself accountable to a high standard of work. And I wouldn't say it's difficult. It takes work for sure, but it's rewarding work. Okay? Now, this one again, we've got the Cartesian plane of the mind. We've got the positive above, negative below, past memory, future imagination. remember, the past mirrors forward into the future. This is really key. Any unaddressed moments in the past stored in the subconscious mind is going to affect future decisions. It's going to affect future perceptions and actions. So this is why it's important to do psychology work, mindset work, to address unaddressed stuff in the past, because believe it or not, it has a huge impact on how you go and interact in the world. Now, the accumulation of shame and guilt in the past. Shame and guilt is the perception that you have caused, let's talk about guilt first and foremost, someone else in the past more pain than pleasure, more negative than positive, more challenge than support, right? We perceive to have let others down, perceive to have caused others pain, okay? Remember, when we're consciously aware of the negative, we're unconscious of the positive. When we're conscious of the positive, we're unconscious of the negative. So it's important to use these questions to make yourself fully aware of certain situations in your life. Remember what we talked about back in the Emotions 101 episode, where your emotions are the feedback mechanism trying to make you aware that you have an incomplete awareness. The emotion of guilt is a feedback mechanism making you aware that you're missing half the picture here. Same with shame. Shame is the perception that you've caused yourself more pain than pleasure, more negative than positive, more challenge than support. Now, the accumulation of shame and guilt logged in the past is going to have an altruistic compensation to the future. What does that mean? Well, if you have so much shame and guilt accumulated in your life, in your past, perceiving to have let yourself or others down, then you're not going to feel worthy of holding on to things. You're not going to feel worthy of accumulating wealth. But the moment you get a little bit of money, the moment you make progress, the moment you get achievements, you're going to push it away. You're going to find reasons or find ways to spend that money or get rid of that money or donate that money or give it away altruistically because you just don't feel worthy of having it. And this is an incredible, this is a root cause, this is a common challenge with a lot of traders out there that needs to be addressed. So I'm going to show you how you can go in there and start addressing this. Now in week 5 in the 12-week program, we cover this in detail, and I have traders go back to the moments that they perceive to have let themselves or others down most and do the work to address the shame and guilt in their life, so they can free themselves up to feel worthy and they're not having this accumulation of guilt compensating to altruism and not feeling worthy of holding on to things. So this is a really key thing to address. Okay, let's go in and address this. Now, just think about it logically. Shame and guilt, bottom left, it's in the negative past. So going back to these most painful or most charged moments of shame and guilt and having a look at what is unconscious in that moment. It's there, but it's unconscious. Now, when we go and stack benefits to moments we perceive to have let others down, you're not trying to justify your actions, right? I had a client who felt guilty when they were extremely young, taking money from one of their siblings. Now, when we go back to that moment, I ask that individual, how did that actually serve your sibling that you did that? How is that a benefit to them? You're not trying to make up reasons to justify your actions. The question that what's the benefit is holding you accountable to remove the bias in that moment, confirmation bias, disconfirmation bias, to see what's always been there but you've been unaware of in that moment. You see, we go through life shaming ourselves or feeling guilty for certain moments, but in actuality, the truth is both sides of the equation were there. The challenge and the support were there, but we'll be blinded to half that picture. We haven't made ourselves aware of the other side of that, okay? And a lot of the times we feel guilty for things when the other individual has gotten over it a long time ago and they've completely forgotten about it. So it's important to go back and address the shame and guilt so you can free yourself up. We're going to talk about that now. Now the solution here is you want to go back to the specific moments you have perceived to have let others down. So go back to an actual moment in your mind, go back to that exact moment where you perceive to have done an action that let yourself or someone else down. And identify what that action is. Okay, for this individual, it was stealing, in their perception, they were taking money from their sibling. They're taking that money away. Okay, good. Now you want to go back, find how your actions in that moment benefited, served, and helped these individuals. You don't want to make anything up, you don't want to justify it, you just want to have a look. How were my actions in that moment a service to that individual? Okay, for this individual, for example, the taking of money, their sibling was actually vulnerable for them taking their money, so it made them aware of high levels of security and to be aware of these things, okay? Now, we get trained in society to think that giving is good and taking is bad, okay? But the truth is, the moment you give something to someone, and we perceive that as a good action, a blessed action, we're actually simultaneously stripping that individual of accountability, responsibility, to help themselves, to be independent. And when we give something to someone and we make them feel good, maybe give them the money, that individual, we strip them of any last accountability they have to go and make money themselves and be independent, and they become dependent on us. So giving from one perspective, from a narrow perspective, can be perceived as good, but if you make yourself aware of the full picture, you can see that giving has both advantage and disadvantage. We may give that individual something, but we don't give without taking simultaneously. The pairs of opposites are there, it's just about, are we aware of them? Okay, so you want to go back to these specific moments and ask yourself and make yourself aware of how your actions actually serve this individual, served yourself in that moment, whoever you perceive to have let down. Now, you also want to ask yourself, if I did the exact opposite action in that moment, if I did what I wished I had done in that moment, how would that be a drawback to them? Okay? How would it be a disservice to them? And both these questions make you aware of the opposite in that moment. Both these questions make you aware of more data and expand your awareness. What you perceive to be negative in that moment, what you have shame and guilt about, how is that a benefit to them? And if in that moment I did the exact opposite action, what I wished I had done, how would that be a drawback to them? And you start to expand your mind and you start to realize that, you know, your actions had both, gave them both advantage and disadvantage in that moment. And you're not trying to make your actions good, you're not trying to make them bad, you're just trying to see your actions for what they were. And you're trying to expand your awareness of what you actually did in that moment without any labels of judgment in that moment. And the moment you do, and you go back to those very specific moments of shame and guilt where you perceive to have let others down, let yourself down, and you do this exercise, you free yourself up from the judgment in that moment, and you simultaneously free yourself up from feeling unworthy of receiving things in the future. Okay? So you want to go back and address the subconsciously stored baggage, free yourself up. This is a very profound exercise. Again, I give you the tool and the accountability in the 12-week program, especially in week 5, to go back and address these things because it's such a crucial thing to address for traders. A lot of traders don't feel worthy of scaling and doing great things and accumulating money. So going back and doing this has a huge effect. Now, in summary, shame and guilt will log in your mind and make you feel unworthy. It'll make you feel like you altruistically need to give and you won't feel worthy of having in the future. You want to go back to your most charged moments and expand your awareness with these questions. What do I perceive? What was the action I perceived to have done in that moment that let this individual down? How did it serve that individual, those actions? How did it benefit them? You're already aware of the drawbacks. You want to make yourself aware of the benefits in that moment. And then if I did the exact opposite action in that moment, if I did what I wished I had done, how would that be a drawback to them? And crack that fantasy that's driving the resentment in that moment. Okay? This will free you up to feel deserving of achievement and wealth creation. So that's really what you want to do. You want to address the subconsciously stored moments of guilt and shame in the past to free yourself up for future achievement and wealth creation. And you'll feel balanced, you'll feel poised, you'll feel worthy of achievement, you'll feel worthy of having what you deserve, and you won't have this altruistic giving mechanism that continues to strip you of your profits and your achievements. Okay, this was potentially a little bit of a mind-opening lecture. Now, you only get the results from this if you do the work. Now, if you want the extra accountability, if you want the tools, if you want the deeper levels of education on how and why these particular processes work, make sure you check out the 12-week program. There's a free 7-day trial for that. But get to work on this. If you have unresolved shame and guilt of the past, start addressing it, and I guarantee you that will free you up to feel worthy of achievement. If you resonate with this, make sure you share it with friends that you know it would benefit. Share it in your trading communities. But I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for day 20 of the Master Your Trading Mindset movement. We'll speak soon.